Vehicle restrictions for farmers attending a protest planned tomorrow outside Parliament, of course, on Budget Day.
Something is happening in Britain right now that the mainstream media is barely covering. Thousands of farmers, the people who literally feed this country, have driven their tractors into the heart of London and brought the capital to its knees. Roads blocked, Parliament surrounded, and a government scrambling to explain itself. This did not come out of nowhere. This has been building for months. And if you want to understand why Britain is at breaking point, you need to understand what Stormer's government just did to 70,000 farming families. In the autumn 2024 budget, Chancellor Rachel Reeves quietly announced that inherited agricultural land above £1 million would now face a 20% inheritance tax. That sounds reasonable until you understand what it actually means on the ground. British farms are land-rich and cash-poor. The land is worth millions on paper. The actual income? Often less than $30,000 a year. These families cannot write a check for $200,000. They have to sell the land, take out crippling loans, or walk away from something their grandparents spent their entire lives building. The National Farmers Union estimates 70,000 businesses are at risk. These aren't corporations. These aren't hedge funds. These are families. And the government just handed them a bill they cannot pay. But here's where it gets worse. While farmers are being taxed into extinction, the UK government's own figures confirm that housing and supporting asylum seekers is costing British taxpayers approximately £8 million every single day. Britain's prisons are running at near full capacity, so full that the government began releasing prisoners early, putting convicted offenders back on the streets to free up space. Violent crime in major cities remains at deeply alarming levels. The farmers see all of this, and they are furious. Because the message coming out of Westminster is not subtle. There is no money to protect your family's farm, but somehow there is money for everything else. That is what drove tens of thousands of people to load up their tractors and head to London. Not political games, not media stunts. Raw, unfiltered anger from people who have been ignored for too long. When those tractors rolled into Parliament Square, analysts issued a warning that should have stopped the country cold sustained disruption to agricultural distribution networks, could affect food availability within days. Britain, one of the world's largest economies, was hours away from a food supply crisis because the people who grow the food finally said enough. The protest remained largely peaceful, though tensions ran high. Far-right groups attempted to hijack the demonstration and were publicly rejected by mainstream farming organizations. What the cameras captured instead were muddy boots, exhausted faces, and signs that read "No farmers, no food." Simple, undeniable, true. Opposition politicians piled on. Nigel Farage used the moment to attack the government's broader economic failures. The Prime Minister's approval rating had already collapsed to around -40% by early 2025. Inside Downing Street, panic set in. Under enormous pressure, the government blinked. The untaxed threshold was raised, offering partial relief to smaller farms. But for the farming community, a partial U-turn after months of dismissal is not a victory. It is confirmation that they were never listened to in the first place. Trust is gone, and that is the real crisis here. Not just the tax, not just the protest. It is the moment when the people who feed a nation look at their government and no longer believe a single word it says. Britain does not survive without its farmers. No country does. You cannot import your way out of a food security crisis. You cannot tax your way into prosperity by destroying the people who produce real things in the real world. The tractors have gone home for now, but the anger hasn't. And unless Westminster starts listening, really listening, they will be back.